Welcome, everybody, to the International Lactation Consultants Association brief webinar on the Board of Directors' role and responsibilities. We've got some elections coming up in 2014, and we wanted to give you some information if you're curious about what it might mean when we make these requests for people to consider running for the board. We thought it would be helpful to you to know the kinds of things that go along with being a board member for ILCA. My name is Liz Brooks, and I'm currently the president of ILCA, and joining me on this webinar is Kathy Carruthers, who was the immediate past president of ILCA, and she is currently the chair of the ILCA Nominations Committee. You should know how ILCA is structured if you're thinking about being a member of our governance and leadership. ILCA is an individual member organization, and we have close to 6,000 members in 85 countries around the world. The way ILCA is governed is through a bylaws structure that vests in the board of directors the authority to conduct business and make decisions for the organization. And the board of directors members are elected by the ILCA membership. And in ILCA, the way we are structured is those who have voting power are those who are also currently IBCLC certified. ILCA, of course, has many programs and services that it provides to its members. Many of the things that you're familiar with and love to use and access through ILCA, like the Journal of Human Lactation and our conferences and our Find a Lactation Consultant website feature. Our programs and services are conducted or run or made possible through the fine work of our staff. We have a staff that we use year-round, and of course through a large volunteer leadership structure that we have through our committees, task forces, and liaisons for ILCA. ILCA currently has 3 national multinational affiliates, and this is something fairly new in the history of ILCA. Around 2005, the notion of creating affiliates that are geopolitically contained but having an official relationship with ILCA was created. And this is the way that we can allow our individual members of ILCA to have all of the benefits of membership while also having a separate and distinct group which is looking at the concerns of a specific area, be looking to those. So our national multinational affiliates, which are the United States Lactation Consultant Association, the Canadian Lactation Consultant Association, and the Lactation Consultants of Australia and New Zealand, have what we call a bundled membership relationship with ILCA, which means if you join one and you live in one of those areas, you are automatically a member of the other organization. And with that bundled membership, what that allows the national multinational affiliates to do is have access to some of the resources, staff and budget and so on, that are made available through the ILCA organizational structure. We also have some international affiliates that are aligned with ILCA, and these are the 8 or 10 groups around the world. Most of them are aligned by nation, who are professional associations of IBCLCs and others interested in serving breastfeeding families, but they do not have a required bundled membership relationship with ILCA. By the same token, that means they do not then have access to some of the budget and staff resources that ILCA has to offer. And of course, there are many individual members throughout the world who do not live in a country or a region that has either an international affiliate or one of our national multinational affiliates. And the thing we like to stress here in ILCA is that every member, no matter where you are, gets access to the same fine resources and excellent activities that ILCA has to offer. ILCA is structured currently such that most of our funding comes through the individual membership fees that everybody pays when they renew annually, and the fees that are generated by those who attend our conferences. The board looks at what I like to call big picture responsibilities. A board of any organization, and certainly of a nonprofit organization like ILCA, is vested with the responsibility of identifying the policies and governance for the organization. We also have a fiduciary responsibility for the finances of the organization. We need to make sure that we are structured such that money is coming in, being spent on programs and services, and being invested in such a way that we can continue to operate as fiscally responsibly as we possibly can, and also to maintain the health of this organization going forward. The thing to remember about being on a board for ILCA or any other kind of nonprofit organization is that your role as a board member has nothing to do with the subject matter of our organization. Clearly, we care about breastfeeding and breastfeeding families. Clearly, we care about international board-certified lactation consultants. And all of the members of the board are people who work in that field. But the job you have as somebody who sits on the board of directors of an organization is to be thinking about the functioning of the organization. So it ought not to matter that the conference happens to be about breastfeeding and human lactation. Your board responsibilities would be the same if your organization was having a conference about building car engines, or perhaps running a nonprofit organization looking into taking care of early childhood development needs. The subject matters that is of interest to your members is different from the subject matter that you will be looking at as a board member, although of course there is overlap. I'm stressing this so that you understand that it is not important that you have been an IBCLC for a very long period of time in order to be an appropriate candidate to sit on the board of directors for ILCA. Currently, we have 8 people who sit on the ILCA board of directors. They are the president, treasurer, secretary, director of global outreach, director of marketing, director of membership and affiliate services, director of professional development, and lastly, director of research and special projects. And the 3 posts that you see there in red, the treasurer, director of global outreach, and director of professional development, are the 3 posts that are up for election in 2014. If you become a member of the ILCA board of directors, what you should know is that this is an unpaid volunteer leadership position, although expenses associated with your role are reimbursed by the organization. We, through calendar year 2013, have 3 3-day face-to-face board meetings a year, although in 2014 that template for face-to-face meetings will probably revise. We expect you as a board member to have access to and to consult on a fairly frequent basis the online secure board of directors discussion board which we have. It allows us to look at subject matters in a chronologic basis. It allows us to look at them securely so that our own personal emails are not cluttered with ILCA business. And it's something that we expect you to do on a fairly frequent basis. We also conduct board of directors conference calls, is what we call them, that really what they are is webinar-based meetings during the meeting months that we are not coming together face-to-face. And we budget about an hour for those meetings, although sometimes if there's press of business, it rolls over to 1 or 2 hours to have those so-called conference calls be concluded. And what we like you to do is to remember that when you are an ILCA director, you really are an informal ambassador for the organization everywhere you go. And we would like to think that you can represent ILCA professionally and with zeal and in a way that makes people feel honored to have met you and interacted with you and leaves them with a wonderful impression about our organization. The strategic plan is one of the most important policy-setting roles that the Board of Directors has. And we encourage you, if you're at all interested in running for a post on the Board of Directors, to read through the strategic plan. It is a living document. It contains the long-term and short-term goals for the organization as set by the board. And as it is, as tasks and projects are accomplished, we are continually revising that strategic plan. It is something that anyone can access if they visit the ILCA website, and you'll have links to it if you hit our homepage at www.ilca.org. This is just a screenshot. I don't expect you to be able to read this, but this just gives you a snapshot of what it looks like when you do access that strategic plan from the ILCA website. Everybody who runs for a board post is asked to review the general job description, and these are the requirements that everybody must meet for every single position on the board of directors. And there are several basic elements listed, but primarily, if you're interested, what we ask is that you have been an IBCLC member of ILCA for at least 2 years. ILCA directors are also asked to annually sign a statement about conflicts of interest. And so what that says is that as a member of the board of directors, you will follow the bylaws and the priorities and objectives of the organization and asks for an articulation of any relationships which might be perceived as a conflict of interest. The other thing to remember is that when you are on the board of directors for ILCA, you have responsibilities as a director to the running of the organization. But the way we have structured our governance is that you also serve in what we call a liaison role. So everybody who's on the board of directors for ILCA has several of the committees and task forces that are within their portfolio, and that allows those groups to have a link to the board of directors. If you're a liaison to those committees, you do not serve on those committees and do the work of those committees, but if the chair or a member of that committee has a question or a concern that needs to be addressed by the board as a whole, the liaison is the person to whom those concerns would be brought. I'm going to ask Kathy to share with us some of the information about the specific posts that are up for election in 2014.
Thanks so much, Liz. I'd like to welcome you to this webcast and just thank you for your interest in learning more about being perhaps a member of the Board of Directors for ILCA. So we're excited you're here. I'm going to share just a little bit of information about the 3 current positions that are open on the board. And as Liz mentioned, there are job descriptions for each one of these, and we invite you to read those more carefully to get a little more detail about what the roles and responsibilities will be. So the first one is treasurer. The ILCA office staff, as Liz has already mentioned, are really responsible for the day-to-day operations of the financial matters for the organization. But the board treasurer works closely with these staff in that liaison relationship that she mentioned. The treasurer is going to be responsible for finance and fundraising matters, monthly check and budget approvals. The treasurer also is going to be responsible for serving as a liaison to the ILCA Scholarship Committee. You know, ILCA has grown and matured a lot over the years, and as we've grown, we've really realized how crucial it is that our treasurer be especially knowledgeable and experienced in financial analysis and management. Your role is going to be to carefully monitor our financial activities and to really assure that our strategic goals of being financially solvent are being met. So if you, again, want to learn a little bit more about that, be sure to take a look at the job description. The next position is the Director of Global Outreach. This person is responsible for working with our liaisons who work with our global partners and stakeholders. Your role will be to ensure that the strategic goals of increasing our worldwide presence are being addressed based on the strategic plan of the organization. The Director of Global Outreach is going to be providing oversight to all of the wonderful liaisons who work with organizations such as the World Alliance for Breastfeeding Action, the World Health Organization, and others. This person is also going to be managing the WABA ILCA Chris Mulford Fellowship Award process, and they also liaise to the committees that you see listed here, the Ethics and International Code Committee, the Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative Committee, and the Global Outreach Committee. Because of this very important global perspective, we do look for members who will be very familiar with setting policy at the international level. All right, the third position we have available at this time is the Director of Professional Development. And as Liz has already mentioned, because this board serves as a policy-making board, we don't really need to manage all the day-to-day operations of professional development. We have an amazing team at the ILCA office who provide the day-to-day operations for implementing our conference, our webinars, and all of the other many activities related to education. The role of the Director of Professional Development is going to be serving as that communications link, to be available when the staff have questions that they believe the board needs to address or to consider, and just to make sure that the board's goals and priorities, as we've outlined in the strategic plan, are being met. The Director of Professional Development also provides oversight to the committees you see listed here. They serve as the liaison to the Conference Committee, to the Multicultural Committee, the Education Committee, and the Clinical Instruction Subcommittee, as well as the Fellows of ILCA Committee. The position is going to be, we'll be looking for candidates who have skills and experience both in education and in professional development projects. So if any of these positions sound intriguing to you, we would encourage you to try to learn as much as you can. Take a look at the job descriptions, as Liz has mentioned, but also the strategic plan. And I would also maybe encourage you to take some time to review the executive summaries of some of the past ILCA board meetings that are available on the website. That'll give you a feel for the kinds of projects that these positions have been working on in the past year or two. Well, I also want to just remind us that the ILCA membership, we encompass a pretty large area when you think about it. It's the whole world. And as the organization continues to grow, we are really going to be looking for leadership that's going to enable us to achieve our goals of really diversifying the profession so that we can better represent the many groups that we serve. This is now a part of our strategic plan, and you'll read more about that as you get into the details there. We're going to be especially looking to potential new board members who have some experience working with diverse populations and cultures. Now, the process of applying to be on the ILCA Board of Directors is not complicated at all. Candidates can submit their own application or someone can nominate you. Either one, the applications are available at the ILCA website. We are beginning the call for members of an ILCA nominations committee for people who are interested in serving on that committee. There's also an announcement that's going out to let everyone know about the election timetable, the deadlines, and all of the links to the various documents that will help you as you prepare your application. You will then submit an application to ILCA, which will be reviewed then by the nominations committee. I do want to encourage you as you complete your application to be as complete as you can. And remember that while some people may know you, not everybody on the nominations committee will necessarily know you very well or know you at all. So tell us everything you can about you and your skills and your experience so we can get to know you and assess your potential candidacy as a member of this board. If your application is considered one of the top candidates, we will be scheduling telephone interviews to get to know all of our candidates a little bit better. And following those interviews, we will provide the board with a slate of suitable candidates, which will then be voted on by the full board of directors. The slate will then be put to the membership for a full vote early in 2014, and winners will be notified following the election closing so that they can make their plans to attend the next ILCA board meeting, which will be held as part of the ILCA conference in Scottsdale on July 23rd to 26th, and that is when you will be installed as a new member of the ILCA board. So now I'll turn it back over to Liz.
Yeah, and if you're elected in 2014, what we have you do is come and participate in the board meeting that occurs just prior to the 2014 conference in July so that you can sit in and observe and be in a face-to-face meeting even before you're vested with the authority to be a voting member. But it gives you a chance to participate in a way that makes you know and understand what you're doing before you've actually taken on the board responsibilities, which is kind of a nice way to ease in. And that is part of our official board orientation process. We have the newly elected members meet with the current board president, the current executive director. There will have been probably several months of informal conversation and email exchange with the person who you are replacing so that they can kind of get you up to speed. When you have this job, don't be shy about asking other board members or the executive director your questions. We are a small enough board that informal discussion back and forth, even just about simple process questions, who do I go to get this answer, or how do I submit that, or what are the rules about this? We are a small enough board, and we really, I think, learn best from one another, and there is a culture in the board of welcoming every kind of question, and we have frank and honest and open discussion, and we come to decision as a majority, and then we all are in support of that majority decision making. Informal mentorship is one of the most important ways in any position. You can learn how to do your job better, is to find somebody who you feel comfortable talking to, even about the questions you might feel a little shy asking in an open forum. And what we try to do is line up each board member with somebody on the board that they can ask these questions of. It may or may not be the person you're replacing. Sometimes you just need to feel like you've got somebody that you can call. So we kind of call them board buddies, and it's a great way for you to feel comfortable as you get your feet wet. Once you are elected to the board, you will have access to an extensive archive that ILCA maintains on its website of all past board activity. You do not need to know or read all of that stuff, but it is nice to know that the record and the transparency of the governance which has gone before you is available to you to review if you're curious about how decision-making has gone in the past. As a board, we are constantly learning and training ourselves. Sometimes we will go to the extent of having an official day of board training. We'll have experts come in and talk to us about things like finance and board leadership development and so on. Sometimes we just share access to articles or online webinars or online resources about matters which are of interest to anybody who works in a board or has board-level decision-making powers. I also commend to anybody who's interested in joining the ILCA board and who has other board responsibilities at other organizations to take a look at www.boardsource.org. It is an organization that prepares materials of interest to people who sit on boards of nonprofit organizations, and clearly ILCA fills that role. It is a U.S.-based organization, but the materials about interactions and decision-making and governance are absolutely universal. I might also say that right now the ILCA board is quite international in scope. We have 4 members currently from the United States, 3 from Australia, and 1 from Mexico. And the diversity that Kathy talked about so beautifully includes our examination of candidates to make sure that we do have international representation on the board. I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this webinar. I'd just like to ask if Kathy has any concluding comments that she'd like to share.
Well, thanks, Liz. And I would like to just maybe add a closing thought about what being on the member of the board of directors for ILCA has meant for me. I know it's being a member of any kind of a board is a busy opportunity, and there's a lot of activity. But I think I probably speak for all previous board members in saying that it's really been for me one of the most rewarding and I think professionally fulfilling opportunities of my life. You are going to work with some of the most amazing people in the entire world, and I think through it all, I know I gained a tremendous sense of satisfaction in knowing that I'm making a difference. And I honestly don't think it gets much better than that. So we want to thank you as well, and we look forward to learning more about you if this sounds like something you would like to be a part of.
Thanks again.